Networking and marketing made simple is for you, the business owner that has a product, service, or message that you truly believe in. My name is Scott Aaron, and each week we'll take a behind the scenes look at real world networking and marketing tactics while leveraging LinkedIn to get what you have in front of many more people. Thanks for spending time with me, and let's get started. Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Networking and Marketing Made Simple. Super excited for today's episode. If you happen to be watching this on YouTube, continue to support the channel. Make sure that you subscribe, turn that notification bell on. Comment what you took away most from today's episode. Obviously, if you're listening on iTunes, Spotify, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast, and also reach out to us at any point. Let us know what you loved about this episode and what you would like to hear more of. And, we got another interview coming at you today, which I'm very, very excited about. And the fact is that one's path that, maybe defines someone's prior life doesn't really depict what someone has to be doing today. And I think our guest today is a great example of that. Brian Livingston, he's an ex-police officer, business coach, business owner. He's actually Cardone 10X certified and primarily works with current or former first responders, because there's a lot to unpack there, from emotional traumas, personal traumas from that. And we're going to untangle all of those webs and more. So Brian, welcome to today's episode.
Oh, Scott, thanks for having me on board, man. It's a great privilege. Thank you.
Well, grateful to have you here. So, before we dive into everything that you're doing now with your current business, let's rewind the tape. And I always like starting out the episodes this way, just to kind of get a feeling and a sense of the path and journey that someone had to grow through to get to where they are today. So if you could rewind the tape of your professional journey and press stop at a moment that you really feel was that pivotal moment for you, that catalytic moment, the jumping off moment for you that has set you on this path that you're now currently on moving into the future. What was that moment for you?
Um, honestly, it was laying in bed one night, and I was literally, like I'm old school. This was back before phones, where we had the red glow in the dark alarm clock, right? And I'd roll over and I'd look at the minutes tick by, and then I'd roll back up and I'd stare up at the ceiling, and I could still remember the water stain. Like I could still draw the water stain that was in our ceiling. And I remember just going back and forth, and without getting into great detail about it, just realizing um how bad the situation was that I was in mentally. Um, I got to the point that I literally had to make a decision between literally taking my life or continuing to live my life. And at the time, for my wife and for my two young daughters, I had to make that decision. Which way was I going to go? And if I was going to go route B, let's say, with my wife and kids, what was that going to entail? And that was really the pivotal moment when I chose route B.
Well, I think we all have those moments where, you know, it shakes us to our core, and really, some people call it the mirror turning moment that allows you to self-reflect and say, you know what, there's a bigger picture here, and there's more that I can be doing. If you had to look back on your uh, first responder career, as a police officer, is there something that you learned uh, that obviously was applicable to what you were doing as a first responder, that learning experience or that knowledge, that tool, when you did step into entrepreneurship and you stepped into your business coaching, what lesson or what quality trait do you feel impacted you most as a police officer that allowed you to then pour that into what you're doing today?
Well, I can honestly say I was very fortunate. You know, I did a couple things. I fell into them backwards. First of all, I tell everyone find a mentor because I had to do it without one. And so I did it the hard way. But, I was able to, I didn't like just, I scrapped my policing career, but not some of the training that I'd gotten from that policing career. So, I was very qualified in court. I was actually a police college instructor where I taught traffic law and I taught collision investigation. And so I was actually able to turn that, doing that type of consulting and representing role in a very, very different aspect. And as a result of that, I've been able to turn that into a very lucrative career that's still continuing to expand on that business side. So I don't think we have to scrap necessarily all of what we've learned. I think we just need to make sure we find what those good points were and see if we can apply them going forward.
Yeah, I could not agree more. So what was it, obviously you exited obviously a different way that maybe some other first responders exit. Is there is there something that you really took away from, obviously your experience as a police officer that obviously that you have a very strong message now. You work with a lot of current and ex first responders. What are some of the issues that you see continue to bubble up to the surface, for the people that are still active as a first responder, but even those that are post career as a first responder? What are some of the things that you're still seeing bubble to the surface as far as, maybe issues or reoccurring themes that you're obviously assisting and helping those people through?
Yeah, well, one of the, excuse me, Scott, I'm sorry. One of the things that I like to ask people is, who are you? Right? And so many of them, like I'm a former cop. Well, I'm a cop, or I was a cop, right? And when I go, okay, well, beyond that, who are you? Myself, I'm a son, I'm a brother, I'm a father, I'm a husband, there's so many other things that we are that I get people to expand on and realize that that thing that is encompassing so much of their mental health is such a small part of the overall person that they truly are. And I continually, as you say, bubble up. I find that that keeps reoccurring as we get solely focused and we get the blinders on and tunnel vision into this sole thing. And really, let's take a step back to that 30,000-foot overview and look on. The second thing really is almost all of the mental health out there for first responders. And when I went through it, we didn't even have a mental health program in place. There was nothing. I was actually the catalyst for the department to actually start to create one. But even 23 years later, it's still seriously lacking. But everything, almost everything, is for them to get back to work. Okay. And there are some of us that can't. And the problem is, for those that can't, their departments drop them like a hot potato. And so now they're forced into having to transition, and they're unprepared to have to do that because there's nothing in the training that says, what if I can't? It's it's always once you go back, if that makes sense. So I really think we can focus on both of those aspects, and really help people to be more prepared for that next stage and whatever direction that's going to take.
Yeah, and you're doing business coaching now, and I know that you mentioned that you were Cardone 10X certified. So what drew you to, there's a lot of certifications out there. What was the big pull towards getting 10X Cardone certified?
Well, when and a lot of people go back to COVID, right? And how COVID affected so many different businesses, right? Well, when my business that I owned uh, came out of COVID, I was expecting there to be a big explosion and in terms of my revenue, and there wasn't. We were still not flatlining. Like I had a basis of living that my family and I were fine at, but I was expecting this huge revenue growth that didn't occur. And that made me realize, okay, I'm missing something. I've got to go out and look because other people had really exploded. And so about 6 months, after COVID really started to die down, I'd heard about this guy who had built $1 million business from scratch in 90 days. And so I started actually researching who was this guy. And so I actually found this guy by the name of Lewis Curtis before I ever found out about Grant Cardone. And Lewis Curtis is actually Grant's alter ego. And it was his guy that he had to become for Undercover Billionaire. And so I went in, I researched this, and up until that point, Grant to me was just nobody different than Tony Robbins, Napoleon Hill. He was a dude with some books you know, but once I dug into it and I saw, okay, this guy not only talks it, but he walked it. Like he backed it up and he went into a city where he knew no one with no Grant Cardone connections. And he just had to use what he knew to do this. And he built a $5.5 million valuation in 90 days. And I was just like, okay, this is the guy I've got to learn from. And my business exploded. The stupidest thing I did was I waited 2 months because I was like, well, I got a holiday coming up soon. I got this, I got that. I don't want to do it right away. I figured out that my waiting that 2 months, and it's growing every month as a result, is up to about $60,000 in lost revenue already. And so, but once I got into it, my business accelerated, like just absolutely took off to the point that 4 months in, we did 3.6 times what we had done for that month a year earlier. And it was just, I didn't change anything. And that was with no additional ad spend. It was crazy. And then, so sorry, so once they gave me the opportunity to come on as a business coach, it was just the ability to learn that much more. So lengthy response. I apologize, Scott.
No, I mean, I like detail, and I always tell people that um, instead of waiting for the right time to jump into something, create that right time by saying yes right now. Because it just a little backstory. So I recently launched a private LinkedIn group coaching program, 8 to 12 people at a time. And I was going through, obviously, people apply to join and they set up calls. And I noticed that there was someone that applied to join. We haven't had the call yet at the time that we're recording this. We're having it later today, actually. And I recognized the name and I'm like, that sounds familiar. So I kind of did a search through my calendar and I came to find that this person had booked a call with me um, almost 2 years ago, um, looking
Wow.
at joining one of our other programs. And we have a high level group mastermind and they were interested in joining that. But affordability, they couldn't. They said, I need to wait, hopefully, soon I'll be able to. Now it's been 2 years and we have an application form. And on that, it gives us, pretty great detail of where the person is monetarily. And sadly, their business is in the same exact place where it was 2 years ago as it is right now. So I don't know if they're going to still again have that same. And again, I may, because this is a second conversation, sometimes it does require some tough love.
Yeah.
And again, my big belief is that if you want something to change, you have to change something, but nothing will ever change if you don't change anything.
Yeah.
And so what's the people that are listening to this episode today, what's your message to the individuals that fall into those same kind of decision fatigue patterns where something is presented to them, they know that it's something that they need, meaning they've recognized the kink in their hose in their business. They know what the bottleneck is. Something is presented to them, whether it's me or you, they know that this is the solution. And then it comes time to make that monetary decision. And that's when, the cards kind of fall to the wayside and a non-decision is made again. What's your message to those people that continue to repeat those patterns where they, inquire about something, they're thinking about doing something, and then when it comes to yes, 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 and then when it comes time to making that monetary decision to invest in themselves, they never pull the trigger. What's your message to those people listening to this episode today?
Well, there's two different kinds of debt. Okay. There's good debt and bad debt. Okay. Um, Bad debt is I need a brand new TV to watch the NBA finals, and it's got to be an 85-inch state of the art, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Um, Bad debt. Good debt is where you're investing in yourself, and so you to be able to create that future that you want to envision. So first of all, what is that future that you envision? Okay. But second of all, you've got to be prepared to put that investment into yourself, because you've got to be committed to that goal. And if you're not committed and everything, then all you're going to see is you're going to see that 2,000, 5,000, 10,000. It doesn't matter what it is. If all you're looking at that is you're looking at that as a bad debt, okay, then don't bother. And you're going to be the guy who 2 years from now is going to be in the exact same spot. But you need to use debt sometimes as the motivator, and it's got to be enough that it's going to hurt too. Like it's got to be something that's going to motivate you. But like I look at everything and I say, any course that I put on, if I'm not giving back 10 times what they're paying to me, then I've done something wrong as a coach. And, I know you have, easily similar or even greater targets for your people that you work with. But you've got to, even if you don't have the disposable ready capital, this becomes an asset to you. I put in a lot of money into grants so far. There's no question. And I can probably tell you, out of the tens of thousands of dollars that I've put in already, I'm seeing literally probably 10 times back on that. And not only has that been a fairly short time for return, but I get to carry that out for forever, because I'm never going to unlearn what I've learned.
It's a system. That's something that I always express to people. When you learn a methodology and you learn a system and a strategy that works, it's going to consistently produce that positive ROI over time. Nothing, if you're looking for that get rich quick type of thing, it's never going to work. You want to play the long game, right? I always tell people your business should be built and structured like a marathon, not like a sprint.
Yes.
And those are the people that end up winning in the long run because they're staying in the game. They're tweaking, refining, and doing what it is that they need to do. There's not a year that goes by where Nancy and I are not investing back into our business, because when you think you know everything, you know nothing. So we're always investing in other people, other courses, other programs, team members, whatever the case may be, to help us continue to grow and scale. So Brian, if someone was to, ask you, what, even though there's a lot of 10x certified coaches out there, what makes Brian different than other certified coaches? Not just Cardone 10x certified, just in general. What makes you different as a coach um, as compared to other people that may be in your space?
Well, first of all, you get me. So that's always the first thing. Um, you get my passion, my drive, and my want to see you succeed. Now that's great because a lot of business coaches say that. Almost all of them say that. But second of all, you want to find a coach, and if it's not me, it's not me. But find one who's actually been successful, right? Like I said, like I found Lewis Curtis. And I went with Grant because Grant walked the walk, right? Nowadays, there is every certified coach out there that could possibly be imaginable. Well, find the ones like you, Scott, who are all already successful because you need a mentor that's going to be able to guide you through. And if they've never been successful, how can they teach you to be successful? So I was my own litmus test. I was like, okay, let's take Grant's, at the time, let's take Grant's crap, right? And let's see whether or not it really works. And I went, wow, holy crap, this stuff really works, right? And so you really want to find someone that's done it and is continuing to do it.
Well, I couldn't disagree with that at all. I mean, again, uh, I always tell people, people ask me that same question, what makes what you do different? I said, well, it's me. There may be other people out there, teaching an aspect of the 10X, maybe teaching something that I teach on LinkedIn, but I'm being brought to the table. So you're automatically going to get a new flavor, a different flavor, a new strategy. So that like I love that response because people need to understand just because someone the best coaches are the ones that take what they learn and they make it their own. They still stick to those core foundational principles that they learn, but they bring their own voice, their own messaging, their own theories and thoughts, things behind it that really differentiate themselves from other people. So I love that response. So Brian, as we start to wind down, before I get to my final question, if that ex or current first responder that's listening to this is interested to learn more about you, your methodologies, your coaching, what's the best way for people to either find you on social or online?
I'm on Facebook and I'm on LinkedIn, just Brian Livingston. My thing starts off as remarkably unremarkable. So if you see that, you'll know that it's me. They can also reach out on mymentoring.guru. And basically what I tell everybody is, I'm not a therapist. Okay, so I'm not here to analyze what's going on with you, but if you need help taking that next step, it's a free conversation. Let's sit down, let's have it. If you've already got a business going, we do a full business assessment, and that's all free because I might not be the right person for them. Scott, you might end up being the right person to them. And if I feel I'm not the right person, but I know who is, I will direct you to who you need to be with.
Love that. So, Brian, final question. Obviously, before we sign off today, no wrong answer. This is, just truly how you feel. What does success truly mean to you?
Um, I think success depends on your goal. My goal, and it's never wavered, is taking care of my wife and my daughters. That's the reason why I chose to live. And success to me is being able to know that at the end of the day, I did everything I could to make their lives as easy as possible for them so they don't have to go through what I've had to go through.
Hmm. I love that. It's never about us. It's about everybody else. And, I think there's a bigger picture for every single person. So I really hope everyone that listened to this can let that sink in because we get one life. That's it. There's no do-overs, there's no mulligans, and we need to make it the best life ever. And Brian, you're a prime example of that. And I just want to thank you again for taking the time to come onto the show today and share your knowledge, wisdoms, and everything else that you brought to this episode, and just appreciate everything that you're doing for all the current and past first responders, helping them, break the chains of maybe some of the habits that they have, prior, and helping them live a better life. So, Brian, thank you again for being here today.
Well, Scott, thank you for having me. It's a great privilege. So just thank you very much.
Absolutely. And to the audience that's listening or watching, all the information about how to connect with Brian, whether it be on social media or his website, will be included in the email that goes out for this broadcast, but also in the show notes of this episode. So you're not going to have to look too far. Just want to thank everybody for tuning in today. Again, don't forget, let us know what you love most about it. Support the YouTube channel and the podcast by subscribing. Turn that notification bell on if you are on YouTube, and let us know what you took away from this episode. So everyone, please enjoy the rest of your days. Love and gratitude, and I'll talk to you next time. Thank you so much for checking out today's episode. If you could, please support this podcast by hopping over to Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or any place that you're listening to this. Leave us a rating and review. Let us know what you loved most and what you would like to hear more of. But also, if you would like to learn how to take your business to the next level, whether it's using LinkedIn or working directly with myself and Nancy in our intimate group coaching programs, you can head over to www.thetimetogrow.com or scottaaron.net to learn more. Thank you again for your support, love and gratitude, and I'll talk to you soon.